Hi everyone, today I will be giving some EPQ tips and tricks and advice, basically a guideline on how to get an A star in your EPQ. And if you're wondering if this is the same setup as the last video, yes it is. In year 12 I did an EPQ and I based it off of Western representations of Queen Cleopatra VII being regarded as reliable. And I actually achieved an A star, so don't worry, I am gonna give some good tips and hopefully you will be able to do the same. Okay, so I will go through some general advice first and then go in depth into each component of the EPQ. One of the main things that I would say is that your class are your biggest supporters. You can get feedback from each other, you can give each other tips and advice as well. Things like links. I remember one of my classmates gave me a reference generator called like mybib.com or something, and that saved me so much. And even when we were doing presentations we would rehearse to each other. That was really beneficial to me, so make sure you make good friends with your class. My next piece of advice is to literally document everything. I, for example, made a research planning document. So I also did primary research, so I broke down every part of my primary research, did a risk assessment. I even had a little table that logged every week and what I did in each week. Make a document for everything and that will show the dedication that you put into your EPQ. My next tip is to prioritize EPQ when you can. You shouldn't be just putting all your effort into EPQ, but when it comes to things like doing wider reading for your A-level subject or researching for your EPQ, I would research for your EPQ because it's only a year and it will be done before you know it, and you want to give it your all and get that good grade. So when it comes to your EPQ, you should pick a topic that you are interested in and you want to research into. One of my friends who really loves F1 did a whole EPQ on the Halo device. When you're in your research phase, your topic and your focus is going to change quite a bit, so do not worry about having a question in the beginning, just have a topic. So that keeps you motivated throughout your EPQ, and also make sure that there's enough research to go into something that does have evidence, that does have sources. So keep that in mind, and also make sure that your topic does not correlate to any of your A-level subjects, because that is dual accreditation and can actually fail your EPQ. So be very, very careful. Keep a document of your notes and your references, because it makes finding things a lot easier when you're writing your essay, and when you're referencing it will make your life a lot easier as well. Your research is not just limited to lectures and books and articles. It can vary from podcasts, films, articles. So for example, mine was based on Cleopatra, so I watched a few documentaries and also the Cleopatra iconic film in 1963 starring Elizabeth Taylor, and I used that to talk about Western representations. As long as you have a reliable source, so the artifacts that I used were from the British Museum website, so you know that they are legit, and that actually shows that you have a wide range of research to include into your essay. When it came to reading books, I tabbed each page that was useful to me to make taking notes a lot easier, and this just saved time in general. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you is to reach out to the professors and experts within the field of your topic. So I reached out to this professor in UCL who did Egyptology. I did an interview over email with him asking questions about Cleopatra. And there is a bit of a risk in this because they might never reply, but that's the worst that can happen. They might never reply and that's it. Hopefully they will reply, and that will give you some primary evidence. But coming from that, primary research is beneficial but not necessary. If your topic is something that you can't really do primary research in, you don't need to worry at all. I also did a survey within my year group asking how they perceived Cleopatra, because my thing was about her representations. If primary research will benefit you and it fits into your topic, then do it. But if it doesn't, it will not mark you down in any way. Some websites that I would recommend are JSTOR, Google Scholar and Britannica Encyclopedia. These three websites helped a lot with my research and finding reliable information, and especially on Google Scholar I found so many articles, theses on my topic, so that was very, very helpful. When it comes to your EPQ in general, have some weekly targets that you can stick to, keep you on track to completing your EPQ on time. Take the deadline that your teacher has given you for your EPQ and try complete everything the week before. That way, if you have not completed everything the week before, you have that 1 week to then really try and finish everything. You will avoid a lot of stress, and it will actually show in your production log and in your essay that you had good time management. The weekly targets themselves don't need to be like finishing reading all your books in 1 week. It can be, you know, reading 10 chapters or watching 3 documentaries or anything like that, as long as you are doing your research and then moving on to your essay and your presentation in the right pace. EPQ is not daunting. I know it seems like that at first. If you keep track with everything, then it can be really, really fun and really, really interesting. Teach you a lot about what uni life is going to be like if you do decide to, you know, do dissertations and things like that. So when it comes to your production log, write through your thought process and write about it in detail. Talk about why you made this decision, what impacted you to make this decision, what impacts will this decision have on your EPQ. Talk about every single idea that you have about your EPQ in general and go into depth for every single one. Why you didn't go with this idea and why you did go with this idea, and do that throughout your EPQ, and that way the examiners will be able to see your journey in your EPQ really, really well. Even if something changes, that shows growth and it will really impress the examiners. If you're watching this video and you are doing an EPQ, reference this video. You can write about this video in your production log and you can talk about how it has impacted what you do in the future for your EPQ and how you manage your time. Even conversations with your moderators. If you've read a book about essay writing, it's those little details that really make an impact. One thing is to please make sure your dates are chronological in your production log. That's a really small mistake, but it can cost you, so double, triple check your headers, your footers, and your dates in your production log. To show your organization and thought process a lot better in your production log, make tables. For the presentation part A or part B, I made a table of every slide that I intended to make. It would go the slide number, what was in the slide, what I would talk about regarding the slide. Another thing for your production log is to not leave it last minute. Write in it as you go. To help with those like tiny little details, I would say keep a journal or like a very rough diary of everything that you do. This is mine. I just wrote down like dates and what I did, and these are some notes that I made from my research. Every conversation that I had regarding my EPQ, I wrote about in this diary, and this helped me so much when I was writing my production log. It gave me content to write about. Regarding the essay, remember that it is only 10 marks. Don't stress over it so much that you forget your production log, you forget your presentation. It's not as daunting as you may think it to be. It is 5,000 words, but 5,000 words is not a lot when you actually get to writing. And if you feel like you can't fill up those 5,000 words, you have not done enough research. I first wrote a raw draft, a very word vomity version of my essay, and then printed it out, edited it myself, and then took that edited version, had my friend edit it, then edited it myself again. Then I had feedback from my teacher, and I just repeated this until I had my final version. This is the EPQ that my friend actually edited for me. You need to know if people who don't know anything about your topic can understand it. At the end of the day, it's your essay and it's your voice. One of my main struggles was a referencing style. It cannot be incoherent in the actual essay. So I did Oxford referencing, but a lot of people find Harvard easier because you don't have to worry about the numbers and the Latin. You do not need too much fancy jargon in your essay. You have to remember that this essay is about your findings. Just find your tone of writing and stick to it. Avoid plagiarism, so reference everything and try not to copy anyone else's words. Try and stick to the word count that you have set for specific sections within your essay, because it shows that you have not been able to summarize your research enough. 5,500 words is the maximum, I am pretty sure. If you do struggle, then 5,500. When it comes to your presentation, rehearse it with your classmates as much as you can. This will help build your confidence. It will also help your timing. If you time yourself every time, you will be more critical of what is kind of unnecessary to include in your presentation. If you do go over your time limit, you can get penalized. They will tell you you when you're waffling or when something doesn't make sense, or you need to elaborate more. You want the real presentation to have no complications at all. These are the flashcards that I used. When it comes to flashcards for your presentation, just have a little prompt, so you're not reading off of them, but you're actually just using them to guide you. This is the first flashcard, and this has kind of like a sentence starter so that I do not blank out and I can get into it straight away. They were very helpful for me. I know I've been mentioning slides, but do not spend too much time on them. You can do a presentation without having something in the background. It's about your speech, about your knowledge, about your understanding of your topic, about your EPQ journey. If you are using slides, then make sure that everything is concise and also visible. I would say that because I did something that was based on history, it was a lot easier for me to make slides because I was including pictures such as artifacts. When someone says that your presentation needs to be interactive, that does not equal audience participation if you don't want to include audience participation. I created a handout and I referred to that in my presentation, so I would say, if you look at your handout, you can see blah 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 blah, and that was a way for me to interact with the audience and make sure that they are still engaged. Audience participation is feels a bit daunting to you. There are ways to work around it. Canva is your best friend. I used that so much. It took me like 20-30 minutes and it was great. Make your presentation personal to you. Talk about your EPQ journey. What drawbacks have you had? What have you learned? How have you found this journey? What skills have you learned? Giving them something to think about once the presentation is over. When it comes to questions at the end of your presentation, do not overthink it because you have done the research. You are an expert within this field. Even if you do feel like you're a bit on the spot, just take a deep breath. The last component of that I will be giving advice on is the source evaluation. This document shows critical thinking and also plays a part in your decision making. You evaluate the sources that you have researched and determine whether you will be using them in your essay or not. I love a good table. Source name, source type, author, when published, when I accessed it, whether it was reliable, whether it was high in validity, and then will I be using it or not in my essay. This seems like a lot, but it gave me a perfect breakdown of everything that I needed to include and made sure that I covered all bases regarding all my sources. Is the source biased or not? Is it true? Is it accurate? How can you corroborate the claims that have been made? You just kind of have to think about that when you're evaluating the sources. Include links wherever possible. It's just an extra step, but it shows a lot of effort and helps out the examiner, and you want the examiner to be as relaxed as possible when they're marking your EPQ. Even if it's not a link, if you read a physical book or attended a real lecture, just upload a picture and just show some evidence of you actually doing this. And it shows your consistency with the level of dedication that you are putting into your EPQ. Give in-depth evaluations. Mention the date, mention the author. Who is the author? Does that impact your resource? Is the resource outdated? Could the author have had any influences that might have impacted what they wrote? When you think about these external factors, it really shows a well-rounded evaluation and shows your critical thinking skills. When you are discussing whether you will use a source or not, explain why. So if you are not using a source, you could mention, were you not able to access the whole resource? Was there a language barrier, or was it a bit too hard for you to understand? Was there anything even relevant in that piece of research? It is okay for you to include anything negative. That is just a minor setback, and the examiners are understanding of that. They just want to know if you did experience any setbacks, and it is fine if you did. You just have to talk about them. To make it a bit easier, categorize your sources either chronologically, so when you access them, that's what I did, but if you want, you could do all the books that you read first, and then after that all the articles, and then all the lectures or whatever. It is really up to you, but this could help you with your structuring of your source evaluation and also save you a bit of time or a bit of stress when you're like, what do I talk about next? I have so much to talk about. And that is why keeping a diary also helps, because you kind of have already written down the thoughts in real time, so now you just have to transfer them into your source evaluation or into your production log. Go that extra mile, because your hard work will really pay off. Doing what is necessary for an EPQ, but doing more, you are reaching that top band and that top set of marks. And seriously, record everything. If you want to read a few essays to familiarize yourself with essay writing, talk about that in your production log. If you want to blurt out all your ideas onto a mind map to figure out what topic you want to do, take a picture of that mind map and then put that in your production log. Each step that you take within your EPQ is still a step that you can talk about in your production log or in your source evaluation or in your presentation. I know EPQ can seem really daunting in the beginning. It can be really fun. EPQ requires a lot of dedication, but it also teaches you a lot of necessary skills in return that you can transfer almost anywhere. And now you have the tools and the tips that you need to get that A star. I really hope that this video helped. Good luck with your EPQ. You're gonna make some great memories whilst you're doing this course. So yeah, have fun with it and good luck. Bye.